And Shacker, if you want to play some of that behind me, that's fine. I love the song. But this is very interesting to me because it's the song that created the division in the band, which eventually led to Lou Gramm stepping away. He also had some health issues that he had to deal with. But Lou Gramm went off on his own and started creating some solo albums. I actually interviewed Lou Gramm once. I really like him, great vocalist. But what happened is, the way Lou Gramm tells it is that, you know, he and Mick were the two masterminds behind the band. So they would get together, they would write songs, come up with ideas when they were working on a particular album. And so what they would do when they were done with a song or an album, both of them would take little slips of paper, like little Post-it notes or little pieces of paper, and they would write the title of the song, and then the two guys would write down the percentage between the two guys and how much work they felt they did on the song. So if Lou Gramm, let's take, Head Games. If he thought it was a 50-50 split, he would write down on a little slip of paper 50-50. If he thought it was 60-40 Mick, he would put 60-40. And what they did is they would combine those, they would look at them, and they would always come to agreement that, yeah, that sounds about right. They were both honest in the assessment of the song creation. Well, until they got to Agent Provocateur, the album that had I Want to Know What Love Is. And Lou said that he got together with Mick for many weeks. He would go over to his place, they would work on the song, they would come up with ideas for the song, and they finally kind of pieced it together. And it was one other person outside of those two that came up with the idea for the choir to sing the chorus. And it turned out to be a masterpiece of a song. Some of the band members didn't like it because it was a ballad, it was soft rock, and it was a departure from their harder rockin' days. But when Mick and Lou got together to, put down on the slips of paper the division in the song creation for that, I think Lou, I think he put down 60-40. He knew that Mick was the primary songwriter, but Lou said that he had put a lot of time in the arrangement. He sung his ass off. He put a lot of work into the song, but knew that Mick did more, so he put 60-40. And Lou Gramm thought that was fair. Well, Mick wrote down 90-10, and Lou was blown away by that. And the reason why Mick did that is because they both knew that the song was going to be a smash hit, and they didn't agree, and that created the rift in their relationship. And, of course, the song went on to be an international smash, and it reached number one in the U.S. Now, as a result, they made a lot of money off of it, but that created the division, and Mick ended up taking some time off to enjoy the success from the album and that song, and that's where Lou, out of frustration, got into the studio and started working on his own solo album. And then what Lou told me, the music business was pretty cutthroat back in the day. So what the record label would do, they wanted Lou Gramm to sing and perform and write songs, but not under his own name. They wanted him with Foreigner because that had been a cash cow for the record company. And so they didn't go through the normal channels they would to promote his solo album. He still had success, but not as much success that he could have had the record label, put the efforts behind it in promotion. So I just love the story of how those type of songs come to be. That's fascinating to me. All right, what's going on? Rip City Drive, Chad doing with you. Live here at Spirit Mountain Casino. I'll be hosting the Escape to Paradise drawings tonight. And coming up on Monday, Alex Brink and I, former Coug, are going to be down here broadcasting live from 3 to 6 for the college football playoff, the championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. So I'm down here today. I've got the sportsbook manager, Justin, coming on here in about 15 minutes to talk about the wild card weekend and how that went down for the casino. We'll take a look at the divisional round games kicking off tomorrow at 1:30 with the Chiefs and Texans. And then we'll look ahead to the national title game coming up on Monday night. Travis Demers, voice of the Blazers, and my good friend is going to join the show at 4:20. I primarily want to focus on Bob Uecker. Travis is a huge fan. We lost Bob Uecker yesterday, one of the all-time greats in terms of broadcasting. He was an actor, entertainer, an incredible guest on Carson. He did everything and lived a great life and passed away at the age of 90. So I want to get Travis on so he can share some of his thoughts. And then we'll talk some basketball with Dave Deckard the mastermind behind BlazersEdge.com, who is going to join the show coming up at 5:20. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so. You'll find me on social at Chad in Rip City, at Chad in Rip City. You can also call 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. That's your telephone number. Whatever you want to talk about is fine by me. I'm excited for the NFL playoff games tomorrow and Sunday. It's going to be a great weekend. I think divisional weekend is one of the best weekends in all of sports because we have 2 games tomorrow, 2 games on Sunday, and we have some supreme matchups this weekend in the NFL. And then it's all going to culminate on Monday night with the title game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. Now, I know Ohio State right now is a big favorite in that game, but I got to tell you what, I like Notre Dame to cover the spread, and I believe that Notre Dame's got a chance to win the game. And I think they're going to do it because of their defense. The one thing I respect about Notre Dame and the way that they play, they are fundamentally sound. They're usually in the right position, especially on defense. They've got the secondary to be able to deal with some of the big-time wide receivers that Ohio State has. I think they've got the physicality that can match up. I think Notre Dame will keep it as a low-scoring game, which is going to open up opportunities for them to keep it close and be in a position to win the game. Now, my main concern is probably the main concern that any Irish fan has. You know, at some point in a big game like that, you're probably going to have to move the football through the air. You're going to have to pick up first downs, move the chains with the pass. And Notre Dame has had an inability to throw the football throughout the year. I don't know if they're going to have enough in terms of being able to throw the football to win the game, but I think they'll keep it close. I think it'll be a one-score game, and I think it's going to be a very good game, a defensive-type game. But Notre Dame has been very sound. Coach Freeman's done a heck of a job, and I think it will be a compelling title game. The problem I have is that I'm not a fan of either team. I don't really have interest in either team. I just want them to give us a quality football game, a close game, highly competitive, that's compelling at the end. That's what I'm looking for. You know, like a lot of teams, even though I'm not a fan, there are teams that I have interest in because of maybe certain players or whatever the case may be, but I'm having a hard time latching onto either side, whether it be Notre Dame or Ohio State, because as a sports fan, I have a certain discontent for both sides. So that's where we're at. But I like Chip Kelly. I respect him. I've got a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman, and I'm hoping that they give us a good title game. But I expect it to be lower scoring. The total right now is set at 45.5. I think it could come in under that number potentially, but I think Notre Dame's got the defense to match up. And in championship games, I'm always going to lean on the team that can play defense and run the football, and that's the Irish. And I think they can put pressure or enough pressure on Will Howard to where they can get him off his platform and make him uncomfortable. But we're going to be down here on Monday from 3 to 6. Alex Brink and I talking sports. We've got some good prizing to give away. So if you're going to be hanging out on Monday, which I believe is a holiday for most of the people in the country, come on down to Spirit Mountain Casino and hang out with us, your place to bet on college sports. Now, the big game of the weekend in the NFL, of course, is Sunday at 3:30 on CBS. Unfortunately, that means Tony Romo, but we get Jim Nantz, who just called his 500th game, and this is the ultimate matchup. Right now, Baltimore, after Kansas City opened up as an early 1-point favorite, the line shifted. Now the Ravens are anywhere from 1 to 1.5. And it's a really interesting game in terms of style. The Ravens want to line up and run the football. They put up 300 yards rushing last week against Pittsburgh. 186 of those came from Derrick Henry. And then they've got the ultimate weapon in Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar, he was asked about the cold weather and playing in those type of conditions, and it's not something he's a big fan of. He's kind of gotten used to it over the course of time, but take a listen to what he had to say.
Hopefully we have some heaters on the sideline, bigger jacket, probably. I got to talk to Kaneko to see what he got going on. Equipment guys, they pretty much do a great job, though, so we should be good.
But you don't do gloves under any circumstances?
No. I tried it in practice. I was horrible. Lead that up to Teddy, two gloves, Teddy Bridgewater.
All the joking aside, it seems like you do handle the cold weather pretty well. I mean, being a Florida guy and everything. Yeah, man, I'm trying to win, so it really don't matter. I can't go into a game and be like, man, it's too cold. I can't make things happen. You know, Coach them probably send me home. Eric them be probably trying to come, you know, have me go upstairs and talk to him and stuff. So I got to lock in the cold.
That's pretty funny. He gave a shout-out to Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves. I don't trust quarterbacks that wear two gloves, especially when the weather is sparkling outside. I went back to Denver a couple of years ago when Teddy Two Gloves was still the quarterback of the Broncos. Perfect sunny day in Denver, Broncos and Ravens, and you got Teddy Bridgewater out there with 2 gloves on. The conditions a problem today in the perfect sunshine of Denver? What are you doing out there? And I just remember some guy in front of me saying, why do you wear 2 gloves? He was frustrated because the Broncos offense was a disaster in that game, like it has been for much over the last decade until they got Bo Nix. But Lamar Jackson, I expect him to play well. I expect Josh Allen to play well. What's interesting here is that Baltimore is very stout against the run, but they've struggled against the pass throughout the course of the season. So there'll be opportunities for Josh Allen to make plays. I'm leaning Buffalo in this game, but that's going to be a tough ask for their defense to slow down the run game of the Ravens. And then, of course, for Lamar Jackson, he's done everything in the regular season. He's won MVP awards. Can he finally get the monkey off his back and be able to produce in the postseason in a big game on the road and lead his team to the AFC title game for a rematch against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? We're going to find out. We'll come back. We're going to talk with the sportsbook manager, Justin, and get some insight on the lines and the title game coming up on Monday. I'm live here at Spirit Mountain Casino. You can join Alex and I for the College Football Playoff Championship on Monday. We'll be broadcasting live from 3 to 6. All right, joining me now on the Rip City Drive here from the Sportsbook at Spirit Mountain Casino is the manager, my man Justin Ballinger. And you're from Orange County, and we just got the official word that the Dodgers have signed Roki Sasaki. And I have a friend who loves the Dodgers more than anything. And Justin, it's pretty funny. You know, she was all worried about, you know, the Toronto Blue Jays and the San Diego Padres. I said, let me help you for someone that's kind of outside of your little inner Dodger circle. There's only one place for him to go. And now they get him, and you were telling me that the Dodgers were already the odds-on favorite to win the championship, your biggest liability, and now I would expect more Dodger bets to come in.
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't see any reason why that would be slowing down at any point now, you know. We just saw a screenshot of, you know, their projected starting rotation, and it's like Clayton Kershaw is not even in the top 5, and that's just ridiculous.
I go every year to catch a Dodgers series. So last year I went to New York for the Yankees-Dodgers series. The year before that, I caught them down in L.A. against the Yankees. I went to Colorado to see them take on the Rockies. I love a lot of the players. I love Freddie Freeman, and they just have some great players, right? I love watching them play. But you grew up down there. Like, going to Dodger Stadium, growing up in Orange County, like, that's the best.
Yeah, Dodger Stadium was so much fun. I remember they first of all, you could get in for $4, which is great. It's such a big stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, they always win the, you know, attendance record, but it's kind of a flawed stat a little bit because they have the biggest stadium. But yeah, the games were so much fun. The entire stadium is in the same chants together. You know, they'll zoom in on someone, you know, out in the bleachers, maybe chugging a beer, you know, or having a little too much fun or something. But the whole stadium's cheering them all. Like, it's a crazy atmosphere. It's a lot of fun.
How much did you enjoy growing up in Orange County?
I loved it a lot. You know, by the time I was an adult and I attended Gonzaga, you know, part of me wanted to kind of spread my wings a little bit from my, you know, 70 degrees, sunny, year-round.
Are you enjoying seasons now?
I do a lot, yeah. I'm personally now winter's a little when it's dark and dreary for months on end. That's kind of new for me, and that's still not something I love. But
yeah.
You know, I do enjoy seeing the leaves change color. You know, getting a little snowfall here. I remember specifically I went to a couple Rose Bowls growing up, and 80 degrees on January 1st. So it's nice to get those seasons in there.
Hey, I love the fact that you grew up down there. What I like about the area or any big city like that is, as a sports fan, it's cool when you've got NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, basketball, everything you could possibly want in one place.
Yeah, year-round. You know, it's funny, your team like Dodgers might win a World Series, right? And a couple days later, you're already into the next season, onto the next team, and it's just nonstop.
That's awesome. All right, let's go back to last week, Texas and Ohio State. I was down here for the drawing, Escape to Paradise, and we were watching the game. And you had told me that once Oregon got knocked out in the Rose Bowl, that Ohio State became the favorite, and people started pouring money on Ohio State. And I know that you had an imbalance in terms of money on Ohio State against Texas, but how did the overall game turn out between side and total for you?
Yeah, you know, it wasn't so bad. We were extremely lopsided on the Ohio State side of things, but we were also extremely lopsided on the over. So, you know, the game finished, I believe it was 28-14 after the Jack Sawyer fumble recovery. And so it going under, you know, helped alleviate a lot of the Ohio State money that had come in.
All right, the national title game, which is coming up on Monday, and Alex Brink and I will be down here broadcasting live from the Sportsbook here at Spirit Mountain Casino, your place to bet on college sports, and we're going to have some giveaways, and we'll have a good time for the game. Right now, Ohio State is an 8.5-point favorite here at Spirit Mountain Casino. The total is, or has been set at, let's see here. I don't have the total, 46.5.
Yep.
So 46.5, and Ohio State's an 8.5-point favorite. What have you seen in terms of line movement and money movement ever since that hit the board?
Yeah, you know, the game opened 9.5, and fairly quickly there was some sharp money that came in on Notre Dame, actually. So it moved to 8.5 after that first day of being open, and it's kind of hovered at 8.5 since. I don't think it's moved at all. As terms of Spirit Mountain here for us, we are still a little heavier on Ohio State, but it's nothing close to the difference that we saw between the Ohio State-Texas game. So it's a little bit closer. We are currently going to be cheering for Notre Dame, but I do expect it to be, Notre Dame is a little more physical, hard-nosed. Maybe that slows down Ohio State a little bit. We'll see.
All right, that's interesting to me. So when I look at this game, and I'm curious about what you thought when you saw the initial line, if I were betting this game, I would take Notre Dame plus the 8.5, and I would probably take the under. The reason why is that I know Ohio State's got the firepower, but what I love about Notre Dame is defensively they are really sound. Their technique is solid, and they're physical. They've shown that they've got the athletes who can contend with some of the bigger, sturdier teams in the country now. So my question to you would be this. What do you think about Notre Dame keeping it a lower-scoring game with their defense being able to keep it close to where we could have a one-score game, midway through the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think it would be smart. The Texas game kind of went like that, where Texas had the ball down 7 with, was that 3 minutes left when that fumble.
And it was a freak play that led to the cover.
And, they're going in, and it's like, geez, they might, consider going for 2. They could win the game right here. So I think Notre Dame is going to take a lot of the same kind of, mindset that Texas had in that game, where I think if you can slow them down, keep it close, keep it within striking distance, give yourself a shot. You might just need one bounce there late in the game to have something go your way.
Now, you mentioned that you really don't have one side that's dominant like you had in the Texas-Ohio State game. Do you think that's because Notre Dame and Ohio State are national teams where you have big followings on both sides, so you get people that are putting money on both sides, or do you think that people saw Notre Dame's performance against Penn State, and so that's kind of weighing on their decision-making? Why do you think it's more split?
Yeah, I think that, and there's always, in a point spread, because in the Texas game, Ohio State was a 6-point favorite.
Yeah.
Here they're Ohio State's an 8.5-point favorite, and I think a lot of times, when you see a team less than a touchdown favorite, if you like them a lot, you're going to pound them. Once they reach that threshold and go over, 7.5, 8 points, I think that's when people, in their mind, they kind of start hitting the brakes a little bit like, God, I think they're going to win, but are they going to cover, that? So I think the point spread is a lot of the reason why it is more balanced in this one. But we'll see. It's the national title game. If you have a 7-point lead, you're surely not going to take your foot off the gas.
That's great. We're talking with Justin Ballinger, sportsbook manager here at Spirit Mountain Casino. All right, divisional round. It's one of my favorite weekends in all of sports because we get a doubleheader tomorrow and on Sunday for the NFL games. It's going to start at 1:30 on ESPN with the Texans and Chiefs from Kansas City. Right now, the Chiefs, 8.5-point favorites. The total is set at 41.5. The temperatures are expected to be cold. These two teams met just a few weeks ago in Kansas City. What have you seen with the early line movement in this game between the Texans and Chiefs?
Yeah, this one actually, it hasn't moved much since it opened. It kind of came out at this number, and I think a lot of people, similar to the Notre Dame-Ohio State game, with it being more than a touchdown, I think a lot of people, when they first saw it, were kind of, they expected the Chiefs to win, but, they've been skating by a lot of their games this year, blocking field goals to win, pulling out, a 1-point victory here and there. So I think the point spread here is also a little kind of deterrent to some people to come in and fully lay it on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I would say I'd feel comfortable with Kansas City as a 7-point favorite. 8.5 might be a little bit steep. The one thing I do like about I was talking with a guy from Kansas City a couple of days ago. One thing that Andy Reid does with his experience, he does a good job of knowing when to crank up the physicality in practice, and he knows how to push the buttons. Like I like Andy Reid. He's been proven over the course of time, coming off a bye week, he knows how to handle that routine to keep his guys ready.
Yeah, I was going to actually mention that myself. Mahomes and Reid together coming, when they have a week off, it's crazy stuff. So I think I saw straight up Patrick's 19-3 coming off a bye, so it's like they know what they're doing when they have time to plan for someone.
That's pretty awesome. Now, of these teams that are remaining, who's getting the most in terms of future bets to win the championship? Is it Kansas City, is it Detroit, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, so it is Kansas City. We've actually, in the past, 3 or 4 weeks, we've seen a lot of LA Rams money coming in. And I think part of that is their odds have been, you're actually going to win some money by betting on the Rams because they aren't one of those, Chiefs, Lions, Bills type of heavy favorites.
Yeah.
And, you love the McVay-Stafford combination. So besides the Chiefs, actually, really the Rams have been seeing a lot of action with us, too.
There's no question, McVay-Stafford, if you compare that to every other team, they're right up there in terms of coach-quarterback combination.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, after Mahomes and Reid, that might be
the best.
Yeah.
All right, that second game, this is fascinating to me. It's going to be on Fox, 5:15, Commanders and Lions. Right now, Detroit, a beefy 9.5-point favorite. The Commanders have played good football all year with their rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. Detroit, They've battled through a lot of injuries on defense. They've really played well in that victory over the Vikings to give them the number 1 seed. What do you think here? What are you seeing with line movement?
Yeah, this one is actually, we've been pretty balanced. I kind of expected to still see Lions money in this one just because opposite of the Chiefs, the Lions have been rolling people all year. You know, they have 20, 30-point victories. My big thing, though, personally, aside from the casino, is I'm done betting against Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I did it far too many times this year, and I've just burned every single time. I mean, the kid's amazing. 9.5 right now, that's a lot of points, you know. That's kind of, to me, screams possible, you know, backdoor cover there or something.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the Commanders, especially with the injuries the Lions have had on defense, like I expect Detroit to win, but I think the Commanders are going to be able to move the football.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be a situation where you have what you're talking there where Detroit could be in control of the game, but that late touchdown, the backdoor cover, always a scary one, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure the over-under is quite high enough, you know, in that game.
Could be a very high-scoring game. Well, what's the psychology behind, you were talking about this, for the general public, why does the public tend to go favorites and overs compared to unders and underdogs? Why is that? You know,
I think, you know, in terms of the favorite, it's just, you know, in your head, it's like that team's expected to win. You know, I think, and it's hard to overcome that kind of thinking in the sense, like, why would I go against the team that's supposed to win?
Like Kansas
game?
City tomorrow at home. They got Andy Reid, they got Patrick Mahomes, defending champs, playing the Texans in their building. Why would they lose that game?
Right. And that's immediately, you know, where I think most people's brains go to when they're thinking about it. As for the over/under, the phrase I always hear is, "Well, I don't want to sit there and cheer against scoring. You know, I want to watch points be put up."
Yeah, we all love that.
Yeah, so I think for the total, it's more just. I mean, I you know, when I bet on unders, it is kind of boring a lot of the time. You know, you're sitting there rooting for passes to be incomplete. You know, guys to fumble the ball, and it's just kind of not as fun of a game. You know, when you're watching in that sense.
I agree. On Sunday at noon. On NBC, Rams at the Eagles. Right now, Philadelphia is a 6-point favorite. The total set at 43.5. What do you notice with line movement here?
Line movement here has not moved, actually. Eagles opened up at 6, and I was thinking, you know, the way the Rams just train rolled the Vikings on Monday night, I was thinking this spread would be a lot closer. But, you know, they start thinking Jalen Hurts, you know, when guys come off a concussion, that first game back, they do tend to have a pretty poor, you know, performance. So I think that contributed a lot to what we saw from the Eagles. And so it's kind of the Rams looked so good, the Eagles looked so bad.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the weather, when a West Coast team, you know, heads out there, you never know really what to expect.
I don't know how you see this one. I really like the Eagles here. I think top down, I think they got the best roster in football. Saquon Barkley has been a tremendous add for that, but they're also really strong at the line of scrimmage. Like, I could see them being able to give a lot of issues or put pressure on Stafford.
Yeah, I agree, too. And I think the Eagles being able to watch that game on Monday night against where the Rams played the Vikings, I think they're going to take away a lot from that, and I think the Eagles will be ready for the challenge.
All right, the final game is awesome. This is a sensational matchup. Ravens at the Bills, 3:30 on CBS, and right now the line, Ravens here at Spirit Mountain Casino, a 1-point favorite, total set at 51.5. What I'm curious about here is that when and I don't know if it was the same here, but when the line initially opened, you had Buffalo's around a 1-point favorite, but then there must have been some early sharp money or something, but quickly the Ravens shifted to a 1-point favorite. So what's going on with the line here, and what was it to open up here at Spirit Mountain?
Yeah, no, we did have the -1 for Buffalo very briefly. You know, we are tied to the nationwide MGM odds through BetMGM here. So they moved it quite quickly to Ravens -1.
So do you think that was sharp money that was coming in on Baltimore?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's one of those where the Ravens too, they seem to be they've just slowly been getting better and building all year. Like, they were a good team that first week against Kansas. It seems like every single week they've taken that step where, you know, the Bills, I know they rested Allen in the last game, but they struggled against the Patriots. I forgot who they played week 17, the second to last game, but they, you know, struggled a little bit in that game as well. And I think, you know, it's kind of more of a recency bias there. I was amazed to see, Josh Allen at home in the playoffs, not playing against the Chiefs and still being an underdog.
That's crazy to me.
It's baffling, but I mean, Lamar is a dog. That's also weird to think about. So it's just one of those games where, I think it's going to be who has the ball last.
And I really believe that either one of those teams, Baltimore or Buffalo, they're capable of going into Kansas City and being able to take out Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this year feels that way more so than even the past few years.
I agree.
I think both of them are alive if they win this, or whoever wins will be alive.
That's fascinating to me. I wanted to ask you this too. Like I've had a chance to talk to Mr. Vaccaro down at South Point, and I've heard from a couple other bookmakers where, and I don't know where you come out on this, but sharps that come in and place bets. And I've heard a lot of sportsbook managers say that they actually appreciate sharps that come in early in the week to get down a sizable bet because they want to use as much information as they can. And if they know a couple of good sharps come in and place down a sizable bet on one side, it gives them some knowledge in terms of whether or not their lines are where they need them to be. I mean, can you see the logic in that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a welcome thing for sports books. A lot of times, earlier in the week, you obviously your line opens, and a lot of times you have smaller limits too. So you don't have the same limits on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that you're going to have on Saturday and Sunday going into a game.
Is that just so you can allow the market to set and you have a better idea of what you're dealing with?
For the most part, that's the main reason behind that. So a lot of times, these sharps will come in, and first of all, they're not going to be able to burn you to the full maximum that they're capable of had they come later in the week. And if it's a guy who is a long-term winner, someone you respect, he's kind of giving you where he thinks the game's going to go, and then you can use that information to adjust. Sometimes you don't use that information at all if you could just be getting flooded by the public on the other side, or sometimes it's scary too when the sharp comes in and then the public comes in all behind him and follows, and then it's like, maybe we got to check this line out a little bit. But it's there's definitely information that you can be gained by taking sharp money earlier in the week.
That's great. What are your house limits here at Spirit Mountain Casino?
Yeah, so we actually do kind of follow that model where it'll progressively increase as the week goes up. So, when a line opens, we'll take 2-3K on it. 2 to 3 days before, that's when we'll go up 3-4K on it. And then game day, we'll take 5K.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much our base limits.
Yeah.
Playoff games, Super Bowls, championship games, there's always room to go higher than that for bigger events.
So if someone comes down for Super Bowl and they want to place, a larger bet than your house limit, they could come to you and be like, hey, here's what I'd like to do, and then you'll look at the situation, and if you're comfortable with it, you'll approve it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it might depend on what hour of the day they come in. We might need that money at 11:30, and if they're able to give it to us, that might block someone else's over the limit bet later on in the day, or vice versa. There's different factors that based on what time, where the money is, and got to keep in mind late in the season, we're also looking into the future betting pools. How do the futures pay out compared to the games individually and things like that?
That's great. One of the things I love about your sports book, and not every sports book in the area has this, but you've got the counter action. So you've got kiosks where people can place their bets, but you've actually got the physical counter that people here at the casino can walk up, look at the lines, and be able to place their bet in person.
Yep, both of those. Got the app as well, so plenty of options. I know
the app is geofenced for people that are on property, right?
The app is geofenced for people on property, but I guess personal preference. There's so many times I've heard I'd rather just have the physical ticket in my hand. I can sit there, watch the game, check my line, side by side with the TV, and up to you.
All right, so who are you rooting for the most this weekend?
That is a great question. As much as the Kansas City Chiefs have success the last few years, it wouldn't be the worst thing if that slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just the Chiefs, just the reputation they have now, and how good they've been for 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, why wouldn't you bet on a team like that?
Yeah, they're like a blue chip stock.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's great for the public. You know, the casinos are always wary of, you know, the really good, highly bet teams. So
I think people a lot of times look at casinos like they do the government, like it's us against them. But for you, like you may have certain games where you're rooting for a particular side, but you want people to come in and be able to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's kind of, you know, one of those things where it's like, you want to beat me on every – no, I don't, because, you know, if I'm telling you the truth, if we take all your money week 1 of the NFL season and we don't see you for 17 more, you know, that's
no
not good for anyone. So
that's great. All right, Justin Ballinger is the manager here at Spirit Mountain Casino, the sportsbook. We'll be down here on Monday from 3 until 6 live on air as we get ready for the championship game with Ohio State and Notre Dame. All right, Justin, I appreciate your time. I love talking with you, and enjoy the weekend, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you Monday for a fantastic game.
All right, we're going to pay tribute to Bob Uecker with Travis Demers coming up at 4:20. You got the Rip City Drive. You know, Shacker and I were jamming this song a little bit earlier, Leave Me Alone from Michael Jackson. And look, I think we all know, and by the way, this video is pretty awesome. It's got like the shrine to Elizabeth Taylor in it. It's almost like claymation or animation. It's really bizarre, but a good video and a song from Michael. Now, look, we all know that Thriller is a masterpiece, but Bad is freaking awesome too. You go through the song list on Bad. Like, what's your favorite song off of the Bad album? You've got Bad. Man in the Mirror is a masterpiece. Smooth Criminal doesn't sound like any other song on the album. The Way You Make Me Feel is awesome. I Just Can't Stop Loving You, awesome. This song, Leave Me Alone, awesome. Another Part of Me is a terrific song. And then Dirty Diana. What a great album that is. Good gracious, Michael. I think Another Part of Me, you remember that, was it Captain EO? Yeah, Captain EO, that movie they used to show down at Disneyland. I think that Another Part of Me would come on at the end of that show. But it's hard for me to remember. That was a long time ago. The first time I went to Disneyland, I saw Captain EO. I was like, whoa, that's pretty sweet. But yeah, Bad is a good album. That is a very, very good album. A lot of good songs. All right, so the Dodger rotation. It's been announced that they were able to land Sasaki, which is not a surprise. Everyone knew that he was going to wind up with the Dodgers. But take a look at this rotation now for the world champion Dodgers. Yamamoto is their 1. Shohei Ohtani is 2. Blake Snell will be their number 3. Tyler Glasnow, number 4, and then Roki Sasaki chimes in at number 5. They don't even have room in their rotation for Clayton Kershaw, for crying out loud. Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, Glasnow, and Sasaki. Now, knowing the Dodgers, 3 weeks into the season, 4 of those 5 starters will probably be hurt and on the DL for an extended period of time. But right now, here's the issue with baseball, and this was actually brought up by John Sukanik, who's a massive Mariner fan. He said that it's not, the problem with baseball is not that the Dodgers are out there spending billions of dollars to try and win. It's that there's many, many teams in the majors that aren't trying to win at all. And that's the frustrating part. And this goes back to, George Steinbrenner and the frustration that he had when he was the Yankees boss. He's like, wait a second, revenue sharing? So why am I going to share revenue with a bunch of teams like the Oakland A's that aren't trying to do a darn thing to help their team win, and they're just pocketing the money and taking the cash that we share in revenue sharing because we're willing to spend big to try and win championships? So I understand the frustration. It's like, wait a second, well, why are we sharing with these fools? You guys aren't trying to win. You're just pocketing the money because you're greedy SOBs. And I totally get it, man. So, props to the Dodgers for just being a ridiculous franchise with ridiculous resources and being ultra aggressive and going out to land talent. And then you've got teams like the Mariners who sit around and twiddle their thumbs without any type of decisive action or big moves to try and really improve their team. And then you got the teams like the A's who are just a complete disaster. Cheap-ass owners who don't give a flying rip about anything. They don't care about winning. They don't want to spend to win. They're just looking at a way to try and line their pockets with cash. And it's a disservice to the fans. So one thing I've always said about sports is that at the end of the day, as a sports fan, all you need to know is that the owners who run your team care about winning. And that's why I love Paul Allen. Do you think, was Paul perfect as an owner? No. Did he make some mistakes? Of course, just like they all do. But at least I knew that he wanted to win, and he was willing to cut checks to do whatever it took to win games. So if I know you want to win and you're going to be aggressive and trying to make that happen, even if you don't get over the hump, I can live with that. As the Michael Jackson show continues, The Bad is a good album. Very good album. Not as good as Thriller, but that's actually a good question for a Michael Jackson fan. Off the Wall, Thriller, or Bad? I mean, what's your choice? Well, we know what the most successful album is, but what's your choice of that? Because they all have great songs. Off the Wall is a tremendous album. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Travis Demers is going to join me at 4:20 to talk about Bob Uecker. And Dave Deckard wants to know if it's time to make a change at the head coach of your Portland Trailblazers. So we'll talk with him at 5:20. I'm live here at Spirit Mountain Casino. I'll be hosting the Escape to Paradise tonight, your chance to win $2,000 in cash and a trip to Hawaii. And then on Monday, it's Alex Brink and I from Spirit Mountain Casino, your place to bet on college sports as we get ready for the national title game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. Breaking news from Major League Baseball. The Dodgers have added Roki Sasaki. Their rotation now includes Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, and Sasaki. Trailblazers got hammered by the Clippers last night at Moda Center. Delano Banton led the team with 23. Scoot, 16 points and 6 assists. Anthony Simons and Tamani Kamara combined for 0 points on 0 of 14 shooting. Portland's back at it tomorrow night. Rockets are in town. Tip from Moda at 7. Our coverage starts with Blazers Game Day, hosted by Chris Burkhardt. The first of a back-to-back. Chicago will be in town on Sunday. NFL divisional round will kick off tomorrow at 1:30 on ESPN. Texans at the Chiefs. Kansas City favored by 8. At 5 on Fox, Commanders at the Lions. Detroit favored by 9.5. Sunday at noon on NBC. Rams at the Eagles. Philly favored by 6. And the final game at 3:30 on CBS Sunday. Ravens at the Bills. Baltimore, a 1.5-point favorite. I don't want to lose my voice, but I just got a text message from Sean and Sandy that reads, "Show me your Dodger!" All right, I won't be doing that for the rest of the show. All right, you want to reach out, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. That Dodgers rotation is going to be sick. I have rough plans to go down at the end of May, first part of June, to go check out the Yankees and Dodgers from Dodger Stadium. But the Dodgers, you got to give them credit, aggressive and willing to spend and do whatever it takes to win. And then you have teams like the Mariners who aren't. It's really nice. So there you have it. I just want to see, like I said, I just want to know that my owner cares about winning. Are they willing to do whatever it takes to win? That's what it comes down to for me. Well, actually, Sean and Sandy is out there right now. Let's go talk to him. Sean and Sandy, what do you think about the Dodgers being aggressive to land Sasaki?
Show me your Dodger. I'm ecstatic, brother. I'm totally ecstatic. I'll tell you what, this is a whole new pitching rotation. I mean, I was ecstatic when they got Blake Snell, and then they go out and get Sasaki. I mean, we kind of all seen it coming, like you said. You know, it's all, the Japanese coalition and everything like that, right? But I just can't wait, brother. And they play up here in Seattle this year, too. I can't wait to take another trip there to see them this year. And, I'm pretty much just punching the ticket, almost like Baltimore fans did when they got Henry. You know, I don't see anybody stopping those guys this year, but I'm going to stay on the Dodgers. I'm not going to get off track here. And, I'm just looking at the schedule now is all I'm doing, and the odds just had to shift drastically. I can't wait to see what the odds makers in Vegas are doing right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate the phone call, Sean. Yeah, Justin, the sportsbook manager here at Spirit Mountain Casino, told me that the Dodgers were already, before the Sasaki move, their biggest liability in terms of futures in Major League Baseball. And now with the Sasaki move, they're just going to continue to get pounded with Dodger bets. But you know how baseball, with the long season, it'll all come down to health. If the Dodgers remain healthy and their arms are available, they'll win another World Series. They've got the best players. What I like about the Dodgers is they have some of my favorite players. Freddie Freeman is my favorite guy in baseball. I love the guy. His family, his story, he's super cool. And now they add Sasaki. They're going to be tough to beat, very tough to beat, obviously. But the biggest story is all these other teams that aren't willing to spend and be aggressive and try and win. My favorite thing to do, I love going up for at least one Mariners weekend a year. And I've been up, when the Dodgers are in town a few times. But my favorite thing to do, I discovered my favorite hotel, Cedar Brook Lodge. If you haven't been there, it's like this little hidden gem that's just outside of the city. It's up there closer to the airport area. But it's an awesome spot. Cedar Brook Lodge is my favorite. And so I like to stay there. And right down the road, you can drive down, and it's free parking to hop on the link. And so I drive down, park there at the link spot, and I just hop on the link, and it takes you right down there and drops you off next to the stadium. And it actually goes as far out as the University of Washington. So if you're catching a football game out there with the Huskies, you can ride the link. But I love taking the link from Cedarbrook Lodge and then cruising up to the stadium for a baseball weekend. That is a good time, especially that time of year. If you catch it, later in the season, especially August, September when the weather's spectacular up there. Like Seattle's one of those cities where I love going up to visit, and during the summertime when the weather's nice, it's just the best. Like, it's beautiful, the whole area. The traffic is becoming a bit unmanageable, but I love the whole area up there. But if you haven't checked out Cedarbrook Lodge, if you're going to go up for a sports weekend, I highly recommend it. And Sean and Sandy are excited about the Dodgers. Yeah, they're going to be awesome. They're going to be must-see television. But there was only one destination for Sasaki. It was L.A. all the way. You use the other teams, for negotiating power, and you drive up the price, and boom, you're set. You're ready to roll. All right, Travis Demers is going to join me coming up here in about 15 minutes. We'll reminisce about the great Bob Uecker, who passed away at the age of 90 yesterday. I grew up watching him on Mr. Belvedere, a sitcom that I enjoyed. Really became familiar with him as a broadcaster during his time on network when he was calling World Series games with Bob Costas, a terrific broadcaster. And then as time went along, started to pay attention to him on radio and listen to his calls. And I think baseball is pretty cool like that, where I'll tune into certain games, even if I have no interest in either team, but because I like their broadcast crew. And if you get a good, baseball broadcast crew that has good chemistry and can tell great stories, I think it's a great listen. And it's why I like Croup and Kipe down in San Francisco. They've been, together for so long, but they're such a great broadcast crew. And the same thing in basketball. I'll watch net games sometimes because I love Ian Eagle. Ian Eagle is one of my favorite broadcasters alive, and so I can listen to guys who can tell a good story and who entertain, even if I have no interest in the teams whatsoever. So we'll talk with Travis Demers, and then Dave Deckard will talk some hoop with us coming up at 5:20. I'm really excited about the football this weekend. We have a lot to be excited about with the games, starting tomorrow with Kansas City and Houston from Arrowhead. That game will kick off at 1:30. It's going to be on ESPN. And right now at Spirit Mountain, the Chiefs 8.5-point favorite. So if I had to, pick winners from the games this weekend, I like the Chiefs over the Texans. Give me the Lions over the Commanders. I like the Eagles to advance, and I have a slight lean to the Bills to get the win over the Ravens. I want the most compelling football matchups possible, and I think if we get the Chiefs and Bills in the AFC title game, I think that is the most intriguing matchup in the AFC, and I feel the same about the NFC if we get the Lions and Eagles matching up in Detroit for Championship Sunday. I think those games would be fabulous. So I'm looking forward to the games this weekend. Now, in other news, there are still teams out there looking for head coaches. And the problem is quality candidates may or may not be available. But I want you to take a listen to Caleb Williams talking about what he's looking for in the next coach for the Chicago Bears.
Selfishly, I want an offensive-minded guy so I can build with him and be with that coach for the next 19, 17, 15 years. And so I can also learn and grow and, things like that from him and what he's seen and what he's gone through with, maybe other QBs or been around.
Boom. That's Caleb Williams. So here's my question for the Chicago Bears. Why on earth did they keep Eberflus when they knew they were going to have access to Caleb Williams? What a major fail that was. You had a chance to clean house. You could have brought in a new GM, a new head coach, and focused on doing what was best for your young rookie quarterback. But they didn't do that. Instead, they kept Eberflus. It turned out to be a disaster. He got fired before the end of the year, and now the Bears are, like usual, searching around trying to figure out who's going to be the next best head coach for their franchise. If I were the Bears, I would definitely be looking at an offensive-minded head coach. I thought that it might be best if they could lure a guy like Mike Vrabel. I would still take a look at Pete Carroll. The problem with the Bears, it's not just that you need someone that can come in and develop your young quarterback in Caleb Williams, and he's got some bad habits in his game that need to be coached out of him. But the problem is with the lack of direction they have in the front office, they need someone that's got, some spine, some sack, who can stand up to people within the organization to help them make better decisions. I think Pete Carroll would be able to do that. I think Pete Carroll would be best suited to go to the Raiders, and I think the Raiders, while they're not a smart organization, would be wise to hire Pete Carroll. My only problem with Ben Johnson, if he goes to Chicago, and my guess is Johnson will be smart enough not to do that. Ben Johnson being in a brand new head coach, great offensive mind, will he be able to do what he needs to do and have the support behind him with that organization in Chicago to be able to, put together the right staff and have access to the right tools to be able to put Caleb Williams in a position to succeed? And I just don't know the answer to that. Now, the advantage for Ben Johnson, if he wanted to go to the Raiders, who have interest as well, they fire both coach and GM. So depending on who they hire and how those things come together, then you could put yourself in a position to where you could have success with the right synergy. But can you trust the Raiders to do that? Maybe now that Tom Brady is involved in decision-making, he can help put that franchise back on the map. Now, Aaron Rodgers talked about his future and whether or not it could be with the Jets.
I think everybody understands that it's going to come down to a GM and a coach and myself, and whether we all want to do a dance together or if it's not in the cards.
Rodgers also talked about his conversations with the Jets brass.
I gave some constructive things. There's so much that goes into the whole thing. There's the food part, there's the locker room, there's travel, there's hotel stuff. There's different, you're just giving little constructive things here and there that maybe they take to heart, maybe they don't. But I think there's always ways to improve, and I was impressed to see that the meeting with Christopher and Jaime was a lot about that. The meeting about Woody was more about team, future, different things. But I think everybody understands that it's going to come down to a GM and a coach and myself, and whether we all want to do a dance together or if it's not in the cards.
Where's he going to end up? He's definitely going to play again. There's no way that Aaron Rodgers is not going to come back and play. I don't expect him to retire. I think he wants to come back. His numbers, if you're looking just at numbers, he put up pretty good numbers this year with the Jets, even though the season was a disaster. So he can definitely still play. The hard part is, for Aaron Rodgers to have success on the field, it might be hard for him to find a team that's in a position to contend that doesn't already have a young quarterback they're looking to develop. So would he take a chance on the Raiders with Tom Brady's influence there? I mean, that franchise looks like they're more than just a player or two away, and you're going into a division with the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, who all made the playoffs this year. Would it be a team like Tennessee? Like, what makes the most sense for Aaron Rodgers? For the Jets, I mean, surely he's seen enough to know that he needs to move on. Why would you want to play there? You can't even take the Jets seriously. They're a joke. All right, NFL draft order. So we know Tennessee and Cleveland have the top 2 picks. The Jets have the number 7 pick. I don't know. I want Aaron Rodgers to come back because I like watching him play football, and I think the story is quite fascinating. All right, we'll come back. Travis Demers, voice of the Trailblazers, is going to join me. I want to get his takes on Bob Uecker. He's a big Major League fan. We'll get his take on the national title game. We'll talk some football and get his take on the Blazers and some of the young guys who are continuing to develop in Tamani Kamara, Denny Avdia, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson. Travis Demers is up next.
Top of the sixth, and rookie sensation Ricky Vaughn on the pitch now. You can close the book on Kellner.
Thank God.
Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason in his major league debut. Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. So the Tribe drops its third straight on this trip, 6-1 to the Rangers. For the Indians, 1 run on, let's see, 1 hit. That's all. We got 1 damn hit.
You can't say damn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
All right, joining us now, my good friend and the voice of your Portland Trailblazers, Travis Demers. Hey, Trav, I did a deep dive last night on Bob Uecker's career, and I had forgotten all the different things he did, including being the ring announcer for the WWF in a fight between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. The guy's unbelievable.
He is. I watched Major League today while I was getting stuff done around the house. I had to. It's sad, man. I mean, look, he was 90 years old. He lived a great life. He did so many things, but it's that one hits hard.
It really does. 54 seasons with the Brewers as their broadcaster. 54 seasons, Trav. That's crazy.
It is. I mean, you think of all the things that I think most people who know him don't even realize that he was the voice of the Brewers for half a century plus. I mean, they know him from being an actor or the commercials, or they probably don't even know he was a Major League Baseball player, Major League, all kinds of things. But, yeah, I mean, he was still broadcasting games. I was still listening to him when I could.
He achieved rank of corporal in the U.S. Army. He won the World Series in '64. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame with the Ford Frick Award. 54 seasons with the Brewers as broadcaster. He also had a chance to call network games on NBC, working with Bob Costas. He was a great actor with Mr. Belvedere in his roles in Major League. It's just such a career. But what I love about his ability as a broadcaster, Trav, is that he never took himself too seriously. He's like one of the best to ever do it, but he had a certain way of just laughing at himself and his storytelling. And everyone that you heard from that's been around him or spent time with him, they loved him to death.
Yeah, they did. He was just a funny guy. I mean, it's just his personality. Like there are some things that they just are who you are. And if you're not a funny person, don't try and be funny because it's super awkward. That's why I don't try and be funny. Because I'm not. Yeah, I'm not Bob Uecker or anything remotely close to that. It's just who he was, man.
Yeah. What's cool is that I know you do this, and I've done this over the course of time, but I know a broadcaster is good when you go out of your way to tune in to a game where you have two teams playing that you have no interest in, and yet you'll listen to them. And you would do that with Bob Uecker because you enjoyed his style and his storytelling and his humor. And I think that's a mark of a great broadcaster, when you'll tune in to listen to someone when you have no interest in the teams or the game that's being played.
Yeah, to me, that's the best compliment you can have as a broadcaster is someone who goes out of their way to listen to you, even though they do not care about the teams that you're calling or the game that you're calling. And, I still listen to a lot of baseball. The Yankees are always my first choice, right? But if there's no Yankee game on and I'm in the car and I feel like listening to some baseball in the summer, first thing I would do is say, okay, the Brewers playing today, and I would go check to see if Ueck was calling a game. And if he was, even though he was, not the same later in his life, I would still make sure that was the first place I went.
That's really awesome. You and I were talking about his appearances on Carson last night, and I appreciated his time on the Carson show because Johnny truly liked him, and they became close over the course of time. But I love watching Uecker on there because I love any guest on Carson where you could see that Carson was truly amused, and being cracked up like him or Dangerfield. Like, I love those type of guests, but you could see the connection that they developed. That's pretty sweet that, that Carson acknowledged him as Mr. Baseball.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying that you and I together are Johnny Carson and Bob Uecker because we're not. But those guys being on TV together, Johnny Carson would bring on Bob Uecker not because he was entertaining and I'm not saying he didn't care about the audience, but his goal there wasn't to entertain the audience. He knew that he was going to have fun talking to Bob Uecker, and that's what you and I do. Like it doesn't matter, what we're talking about. And no offense to everybody listening right now, we love you. We appreciate you listening. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. But we're not having this conversation for you. We're having this conversation for Chad and Travis.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. Now, Major League, I know you're a big, a movie fan, but is Major League your favorite baseball movie?
Yeah, it is. And I had to watch it today, of course. And I actually just finished it just before, this conversation. But I love different baseball movies for different reasons. But Major League, it doesn't matter what kind of mood I'm in, that movie will always hit the spot.
I love it, too, because you and Curtis Long will often, quote different movies, but you both love Major League, and so you'll start a line, he'll finish it. That's the mark of a good movie, is that when you can quote the one-liners over and over again and it never gets tired, that's how you know it's a good film.
Yeah, and between you and me and Curtis, we quote that movie. It's not usually on the air. Most of the time it's not actually, but literally every single game night, we quote that movie at least once. Yeah,
no doubt. As a broadcaster, as a baseball broadcaster, is Euchre one of the best? Is he going to be remembered like that? How would you classify him just strictly as a play-by-play man in baseball?
When you do anything for 50 years, you're going to be really good at it, And so it doesn't matter, if he's great at it. The last 10 years, was he a great play-by-play guy? No. And again, no, I'm not being ageist or anything. Most people that do something in their 80s are not as good at doing that as they were when they were in their 50s or 60s or 70s. So, of course. He lost a step. I never got to really hear him in his prime. So I don't really know how to answer that. No, and when I heard him, he was not one of the best. But he was still great.
Yeah, and I think you could say the same about Vin Scully as well. But you and I are in that age bracket where, a lot of the broadcasters that we grew up with, they were not in their prime when we were first exposed to them. So I wish sometimes I could either get in a time machine and go back, or have been born maybe 10 years earlier so I could have been exposed to other broadcasters in their prime. You know what I'm saying? That'd be fun.
Yeah, and you've got a few years on me too. So when I'm listening to, let's just say Dick Enberg at the end of his career, or young people now hearing Al Michaels, it's not the same Al Michaels that we grew up with. But his voice is still important, and you still want to hear it. Or Dick Stockton late in his career, some of these guys that they had these voices that were just great voices. Marv Albert at the end of his career. Young people that only caught the last 5 years or so of those guys' careers, they don't think of them the same way that we do and revere them the same way that we do, because they didn't hear them when they were great.
Yeah, it's funny. Like Jim Nantz, for instance, I know I'm getting old because he just called game number 500 in the NFL. And so he's one of those guys that kind of came in at the beginning that you and I have had a chance to grow up with. And I was like, man, 500 games. I know I'm getting old now because Jim Nantz is nearing the end of his career.
He is. I don't think he's doing tournament games anymore. I think Ian Eagle's sliding over to the number one spot there for CBS. And, there are these voices that just I think of voices of football and voices of sports, and I've mentioned a bunch of them already, but, guys like Don Criqui. We grew up hearing Don Criqui, and you don't hear him anymore. And even with the recent passing of Greg Gumbel, his voice is Selection Sunday. And I know he wasn't there last year, and it was different, and it's just going to be different this year without him. There are just voices that you hear that you think of certain things when you hear those voices.
Yeah, you get comfortable with them. A lot of different things I want to talk with you about. The news just broke. The Dodgers, no surprise, have landed Roki Sasaki. So they're pitching rotation right now. Yamamoto's 1, Ohtani 2, Blake Snell 3, Tyler Glasnow 4, and Sasaki at 5. That's a problem right there.
Yeah, it's just not fair. I mean, plus with all the hitters they have, that lineup is stacked. That's an all-star team. That's not just your average team. Yeah, they're coming off a World Series win. They've had 2 in the last 5 years. They keep winning their division every year. That's unfair. And unfortunately for the rest of baseball, they're just taking advantage of the situation. They've got the money, and if you want to win, that's the place to go. That's the place to go right now. Nowhere else.
Yeah, no question. Our good friend John Sakanik made a good point. He said the problem's not that the Dodgers are willing to spend and do whatever it takes to win. It's that you have many other teams in baseball that aren't willing to do whatever it takes to win. They don't want to spend. And it always reminds me of George Steinbrenner and the frustration he had, Trav, where it's like, wait a second, you want us to share our profits and share revenue when it's going to go to a bunch of teams like the A's that aren't willing to do whatever it takes to win. They're not going to reinvest the money in the product. And so I don't blame the Dodgers for being aggressive and trying to do whatever it takes to win, because you still have a lot of teams in baseball that aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, there are. And it's unfortunate. That's just how it is. There's no salary cap, so there's never going to be an even playing field. Some teams can't afford it. Some teams choose not to. And then when you have a team that's that good, and we've seen this in the NBA, like, really, that guy's signing for a league minimum with the Warriors? Come on. If you want to win, you're going to go to the team that has the best chance of winning, and the rich get richer. The NBA has prevented that now with the new CBA, but baseball certainly allows it.
All right, let's talk about these games coming up this weekend in the NFL. Texans at the Chiefs. That will kick things off tomorrow. Commanders and Lions, the nightcapper tomorrow. And then Rams-Eagles Sunday, followed by the Ravens and Bills. What matchup intrigues you the most of those four games?
Lions and Commanders. I really, really, really am rooting for the Lions this year, Chad. I want to see a Lions-Bills Super Bowl. I want to see teams that have never won it before, the Lions who have never even been to a Super Bowl. I want to see them there. And, I think of I listen to Adam Shine. I think he does a great show. And he's great. For years, he said, the Detroit Lions, rebuilding since 1957. And I want to see them win. I want to see them pull it off, or the Bills, who have never won a Super Bowl. So those are the teams that I'm rooting for. But I really think that Washington, with their offense and with what Jaden Daniels can do, and the Lions' defense hasn't been the same since Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg. They're still good, but to me, that's the kind of game that looks like it could be a shootout, and whoever has the ball last could win. I'm really excited about that game.
Yeah, I really am. Jaden Daniels, my only concern about him coming out of college was, his slight frame and whether or not he could, withstand some of the punishment. So far, he's been really good. But what's been impressive for me with him, Trav, is how calm he is in the huddle and, out there on the field, especially late in games and clutch situations. And they've had many of those this year in a lot of tight ball games. But he's been impressive in those moments. Yeah, and he did it in the playoffs on the road. In a tough environment in Tampa. And I know you've liked Jaden Daniels. You've been a Jaden Daniels fan going back to his Arizona State days. And when we saw him at Arizona State, we did not see a Heisman Trophy winner. We did not see a Rookie of the Year in the NFL. We did not see an NFL franchise quarterback. And he has certainly developed into that. And you look at these young guys that have performed well early in their careers that we thought would be pretty good, but didn't expect them to be this good this fast. Him, C.J. Stroud, guys like that. To me, he is so fun to watch. I, as a Giants fan, always hated the Washington Redskins, but this team feels like a different franchise, even though they're not. And the Giants have been so bad. I find myself rooting for them no matter how much I tell myself I want to root against them. Yeah, you know how hard it is. New ownership group takes over. They got to put a front office together. They've got to find the right coaching staff. I just think the work that Dan Quinn has done, and then Cliff Kingsbury, what I've always heard on him is that he'll come in and take a look at what he's got, and instead of trying to change the player, he tries to, accentuate his strengths with the plays and the offense that he runs. And so I think he's done a great job of putting Daniels in a great position. But I'm just impressed with the franchise in their first year with new coaching staff, new front office, new ownership group to get in the postseason and be a legitimate threat. And here's the thing, Trav, they're young. They're not going anywhere. They're going to get better. Yeah. I mean, look, they were pretty good the first year with Robert Griffin III, but, the way he played, it was never going to be sustainable. I think what this tells you is that Dan Snyder was terrible. And I have a lot of friends in D.C. that are big-time Washington football fans that lived in D.C. for a while. They love their team. I went to a Giants game against the then Redskins. It was actually the 10th anniversary of September 11th. Giants at Redskins at FedEx Field. And I was sitting in the upper deck. And the fans there, even though I'm wearing all Giants gear, they were great. They're
and I hate Capitals fans, so this is not all Washington sports fans. This is specifically Commanders fans. They love their team. And for my friends that are fans of whatever you want to call that team now, I'm happy for them that they don't have to watch the crap heap that has been that organization for a long time.
No question. It's really sad what Snyder did to that franchise because they're one of the proudest teams in NFL history with a great fan base. Title game on Monday night. Who in the heck should we pull for in that game with Notre Dame and Ohio State, Trav?
Not Ohio State. The answer is always not Ohio State. You know me. You know I don't like Notre Dame. I grew up around a lot of obnoxious Irish Catholics, and they were all Notre Dame fans. And I'm not saying they were obnoxious in general. They were just obnoxious as football fans.
So in 1988 must have been a rough year for you then. 88 was a rough year.
I was 7, so we didn't really care all that much. But 93, when Glenn Foley and Boston College beat them after they beat Florida State the week before, it was a beautiful thing because I was 12 and petty and could laugh in their faces, and it was great. So I usually root against Notre Dame. I can't root against Notre Dame. I'm not rooting for Notre Dame. I'm rooting against Ohio State. And I couldn't stand Ohio State long before I ever moved to Oregon. For some reason, whether it was Joe Germain or whoever it was, I could not stand Ohio State even as a kid growing up.
All right. I want to ask you about, it's amazing to me that Glenn Foley prevented Lou Holtz from getting his second championship. With the Trailblazers,
by the way,
back-to-back.
With Glenn Foley, though, Chad, I remember going to Jets games around 96, 97 when Neil O'Donnell was the quarterback. And he was terrible with the Jets. And I remember sitting at Giant Stadium watching Jets games, and the entire Giant Stadium crowd chanting, "We want Foley." That's how bad Neil O'Donnell was with the Jets, that 70,000 people were chanting for Glenn Foley.
The only thing I remember seriously about the O'Donnell with the Jets is that first game in 96, they played at the Broncos, and Denver sacked him like 10 times in that game. That's all I remember about it. And then Keyshawn Johnson, in his first game as a rookie, basically showing up as quarterback because it's like, hey, I'm open. Can you throw me the ball? Throw me the damn ball.
Yeah. That was the name of his book.
Throw me the damn ball. All right, Trailblazers back-to-back coming up tomorrow and Sunday. I wanted your take on Scoot Henderson. He had the career-high 39, had 16.6 assists, but it looks like he's starting to turn a corner and get more comfortable. We've seen this now over the last 2 or 3 weeks, ever since he hit the game winner against Utah. What are your thoughts on his growth?
Look, we have to understand with Scoot that not every game is going to be like that, right? That he is going to take some steps backwards. And last night, I did not think at all was a step backwards. It just was not a 39-point game. I thought he was very good last night, and I thought that his energy kept that from being even worse last night. I thought, really, he led the team. He was a leader on the floor in that game last night. So they were down 32, and he helps bring them back to 20. It's not getting you a win, but he made that game far less embarrassing because it could have been a whole lot worse. So I think those are the kinds of things to me that stand out. Yes, his decision-making has gotten significantly better. His shooting is better. He's turning the ball over less, all of that stuff. But the leadership qualities, to me, are something that also really stands out with him.
Yeah, he's been impressive. I know Coach is very complimentary of his approach and his leadership styles. All right, Trav, thanks for coming on. I love you, my man, and I can't wait until Sunday because here's what Trav and I are going to try and do. His son Lincoln's going to be at the game, and we're going to try and get him on the Trailblazer pregame show. So I hope he's cooperative.
So Lincoln, both boys are coming over tonight. We got a pizza and movie night tonight, and I'm going to lay the groundwork for Lincoln to come on the radio on Sunday.
That's good because sometimes when you think kids are going to be cooperative, they decide at the last minute not to be. And Isaac's done that to me before, but I hope so because I think Lincoln will be terrific. If he's willing to engage, I think that could be money.
Yeah. They don't shut up until you want them to talk. Then they stop.
All right, buddy. Enjoy pizza night with the boys, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Appreciate it, Chad. See you tomorrow.
You got it, buddy. There's Travis Demers, voice of your Portland Trailblazers. I love talking with Trav. He's got – like Trav's a smart guy. I've always told him this, that if I'm ever on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you know how they've got like that dude or that person that sits behind you that you can turn to for help? Trav's going to be my guy because he's got a bunch of knowledge on a lot of different topics, and I like that. All right, Dave Decker going to join us at 5:20. I hope you're enjoying your Friday afternoon. A little bit nippy out there this morning. A little bit nipply out there this morning. All right, hit me up, 503-248-0620. You can find me on social at Chad and Rip City. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, big thanks to Travis Demers. It's always nice to have him on the show. That's one thing that's been nice about, working on the Trailblazers audio network this year is I get a chance to be around Trav a lot more. I miss him. So it's nice to be able to talk and catch up with Trav, and he always entertains me with his humor. So glad to see that Trav is doing well. We'll talk with Dave Deckard, who's coming up at 5:20. Look, the good news is for you Trailblazer fans out there that want a coaching change, it's coming. This is the final year of Chauncey Billups with the Trailblazers, and then the Trailblazers will move in a different direction. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. And what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's game number 41. So you got like 41 games remaining at most with Coach Billups. So you can just hang in there. You'll be fine. I like Coach Billups, and wherever he goes after this, I want to see him in a position to have success. And he's a good man, and I just appreciate him. I appreciate him as a player. And I want to see good things happen to him. He's embraced everything he's been asked to do here, even though the circumstances severely changed shortly after he was brought on board. So we'll talk with Dave Deckard at 5:20 and get his latest thoughts. Also preview Blazers Edge Night, which is always one of the best nights of the year when Blazers Edge helps many of the underprivileged youth in the area get a chance to come to a Trailblazer game for the very first time. So they're doing good work at Blazers Edge. And I just want to know, who do you want to be in the Super Bowl? Do you want, I'm assuming, Buffalo and Detroit, unless you have a rooting interest? Is it Buffalo and Detroit? Is it somebody else? I think for me, I've thought about this. I think I want Kansas City and Detroit to get back in. I would accept a rematch between the Eagles and Chiefs because I think that would be a great game, but I think Detroit and Kansas City would be a phenomenal football game. Buffalo would be good too. But I want Kansas City in because I want that storyline of a team competing and playing for their third straight Super Bowl to be a part of that leading up to the game. It's never happened before. We've never seen a team win 3 straight Super Bowls. The team that I thought was going to do it was going to be the 90 49ers. They were the best team throughout the entire regular season. And then they showed up in the NFC title game and got cracked by the Giants. Montana got cracked. He got knocked out. And then the Giants were able to win that game, and they went on to win Super Bowl 25 against the Bills in one of the greatest Super Bowls ever played. So I thought the 49ers were going to do it that year, and it just never materialized. The Broncos won 2 straight, but then Elway retired, so they had no chance when Brian Griese took over. I still can't believe that transition. That was a difficult transitional year for the Chad, going from Elway to Brian Griese. Not exactly a good experience, I might add. So we'll see. I want the Chiefs in, and give me the Lions. My big question for Dan Campbell, it's like, hey, Dan, hey, Coach, I respect you, and you've done a great job of laying a foundation and building a culture in Detroit, and you've done what no one thought you could do when you talked about biting people when you were introduced as head coach. You've taken a bad franchise, and you've turned it into a good franchise. You took a bad franchise and learned how to win football games and taught them how to do that. You took a quarterback that Sean McVay didn't want and turned him into an MVP candidate in Jared Goff. You've established a culture. Your team is tough. They're physical at the line of scrimmage. You've had great assistants working with you in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. But can you please show some type of restraint in these playoff games? Last year, you should have beat the 49ers in their crib in the NFC title game, but you put on your dumb cap and thought, let's just start going for it. No, kick the field goal to go up 3 scores and win the game. I know that you want to stick with who you are, your identity, but that doesn't mean that you can't take a step back and realize what might be best for your team in the moment. That's my big concern with Campbell is that can he resist the temptation and not put on the dumb cap and go for it when he shouldn't be going for it? You have a chance to go up 3 scores and put the pressure on the 49ers. Do it. And we'll see how he handles the next couple of weeks. But it's a big moment for Detroit. And as I always point out, you never know if you're going to get another look at it. So you got to make sure you take advantage of your opportunity. I'm not saying to abandon who you are, but be smart. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive. Chad doing. We'll talk with Dave Deckard. He's going to join the show coming up at 5:20. All right, what's going on? It's 5 o'clock, Chad here. NFL divisional round kicks off tomorrow, 1:30 on ESPN. Texans at the Chiefs. Kansas City is favored by 8 at 5 on Fox. Commanders at the Lions. Detroit a 9.5-point favorite. Sunday at noon on NBC. Rams at the Eagles. Philly is favored by 6. And the final game of the weekend, 3:30 on CBS. Ravens at the Bills. Baltimore favored by 1.5. Lamar Jackson asked about playing in the cold.
You don't do gloves under any circumstances.
No. I tried it in practice. I was horrible. Leave that up to Teddy, two gloves. Teddy Bridgewater. Shout out to Teddy.
All right, Trailblazers back in action tomorrow night. They play the first of a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday. Houston Rockets are in town. Tip-off at 7. Chris Burkhart will begin our coverage with Blazers game day at 5. Chicago Bulls Sunday with a tip-off at 6. We'll talk with Dave Deckard. He'll join me coming up on the show at 5:20 here on the Rip City Drive. Right now I'm visualizing being on the golf course at around 6:30 a.m. mid-July, where the sun comes up early. You start to see the sun pop up overhead with the blue skies, and you can feel the warmth of the summertime. And you start to perspire just a little bit as you get ready to tee off. I'm missing those days so much right now because it was freezing booty outside today. Sub 40, like somewhere between 35 to 37 on my drive down to Spirit Mountain today. And right now where I'm positioned, it's a great spot because I'm right in the middle of the sports book, but I'm right below this vent where the air conditioning pops out. And I was drinking some water that was chilled. My body is cold right now. And the older I get, I don't like being cold. I like being warm. I really enjoy sunshine. And so I'm visualizing mid-July right now. Mid-July on the golf course, as you get your body warmed up and get ready to take off on your morning journey. Where are those days? It's coming soon. Trailblazers back in action tomorrow. Home back-to-back with the Rockets and the Chicago Bulls. Chicago! And then they're going to take off for a few games on a little East Coast swing next week. We got big football games coming up this weekend. 2 games tomorrow, 2 games on Sunday. NFL divisional round, and then we have the national championship game coming up on Monday with Ohio State and Notre Dame. And the latest line that I'm looking at right now for the title game on Monday night, Ohio State's an 8.5-point favorite over Notre Dame. Like most of you, I don't have a particular liking for either squad. I really despise Ohio State, so I'm going to be pulling for Notre Dame. But aside from that, I do believe the Irish will keep this close. I expect a one-score game. I think they're going to cover the spread. And what I've learned in these title games is that the teams who are strong at the line of scrimmage and play terrific defense have a great chance to compete and win. And I expect Notre Dame to keep this game close because they're stout at the line of scrimmage. They'll be able to put pressure on Will Howard. My big question with them, of course, is going to be offense. Can they do enough with Riley Leonard to be able to move the football consistently and put themselves in a position to win? I have my doubts about that. With Notre Dame, as good as they are, and as good as they've been throughout the year, they're not exactly great at the forward pass. And that's going to be an issue because at some point in a big game like this, you need your quarterback to be able to drop back and deliver the football on time, on target, on third down to move the chains. You're not going to be able to just line up and run it every down. So Riley Leonard's going to have to be smart with his decision-making. He's going to have to use his legs. They're going to have to get the quarterback run involved. And then defensively just continue to do what you're doing and don't turn it over. You do not want to give Ohio State a short field. Field position is going to be important, so you've got to be strong in special teams. And I really like the job that Marcus Freeman is doing. He's such a cool dude as head coach of the Irish that he's doing his best to make Notre Dame somewhat likable. And he's a very likable guy. So we'll see how things shake out. But I expect a close game, one-score game. And then when you get in those key moments, if you can have a one-score game sometime, let's say midway through the fourth, you crank the pressure up a little bit. And I think there's more pressure on Ohio State in this game by far than there is Notre Dame. The Irish, I'm not saying that they're just happy to be there. They're going to go out and try to win, but it wasn't expected. For Ohio State, their only acceptable outcome is to win a championship. And I'm sure the fans are still frustrated with Ryan Day. Even though they've been able to come out and play great football in the playoff with wins over Oregon and Texas, they're still ticked off about the Michigan loss. But for Notre Dame, win, lose, or draw, those fans and that coaching staff will walk away with pleasure, knowing that they can continue to build on what they've done. But for Ohio State, they're expected to win. They have the most talent in the country. They are one of the best programs in the country. They're expected to win. And we'll see how things shake out. My biggest surprise with Ohio State so far in the playoff is not that they have won both games and they dominated Oregon, but it's just a play of Will Howard. He's been special. And I didn't think he had it in him to be this special, but he's played great football in the last two games after that rough disaster at home against Michigan. I've been impressed with that. And, I think the playoff as a whole, I've really enjoyed it. I did see where it doesn't look like they're going to change the seeding process for the playoff next season. You're going to have to wait. For all of you Duck fans out there who are frustrated with the way that the seeding was set up for the playoff this year, they're not going to change it, I don't think. I don't think the other conferences want to give up some of the money they have access to by getting the bye. They're going to get the auto bid, but the bye as well. We saw that with Boise and Arizona State this year. So we'll have to get through one more year before they restructure the playoff, and I think we'll see further expansion either to 14 or 16 teams at that point. But, again, like I mentioned before, that process to get it expanded out to 12 was much like, the type of bills they sign in Congress where in order to get the bill done and to get everyone on board and get the signatures required to make it happen, there are concessions that have to be made. And in order to get everyone on board to get the 12-team playoff, when they did, they had to make concessions. And part of that was to add value to Conference Championship Weekend, and with that, you get the automatic bid into the playoff and the bye. And that's really one of the big problems right now with the current system is that you have people who are making decisions that are trying to keep the old along with the new. And the playoff does not mix with the bowl system. And these conference title games right now, the reason why these conferences want the title games so badly, and the reason why they want the bye and the automatic bid to be tied in with the title games is because it's a big money grab for the conferences. Those are games that are standalone, that have a lot of value, and they sell them for big dollars to the networks. And so they're trying to hold on to as much value because they love the money they can get from those title games when it comes to their television contracts. So there you have it. I think we'll see the same format, the same seeding system next year, and then after that year we'll have teams added in, we'll get expansion, and I think eventually we'll get to a point to where the final rankings will determine the seeding in the playoff. And they'll just go 1 through 12 or 1 through 14 or however they do it. Whatever the committee comes up with, that's how they're going to seed it, but not next year. At least that's what it's looking like. I don't know what the Dallas Cowboys are doing, but I continue to believe that Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, is not going to take the job with the Cowboys. I don't think he wants to go to the NFL. I think it's intriguing. Anytime the Cowboys come a knocking, you at least have to listen to what they have to say. And in this case, Jera, who's had conversations with Coach Prime. But for Coach Prime, I would make the argument that right now, staying at Colorado, getting a new deal, and continuing to work your magic there is going to be better for you. And then eventually, with time, if you find an opportunity that arises in the NFL again, maybe you can find a better spot with a better structure and, more importantly, a better quarterback. The problem is if you take over Dallas right now with all the guaranteed dollars that are committed to Dak Prescott, how are you going to be able to win right away? And not only that, but if you're Deion Sanders, maybe you have a great relationship with Jera, but the problem with Jera is that he's going to do things his way. He's going to continue to hold press conferences after the game that will get more attention than your press conference. And he's going to continue to be a part of all the big decisions because that's what he wants to do. But Coach Prime right now at Colorado has full power to run the program any way that he sees fit. He's got total freedom to run the program however he wants. And I'm telling you, when you have freedom to make the decisions you want to make and do what you want to do, that's pretty intoxicating for a head coach. And Coach Prime's got full support of the university. He's got the ability to make a ton of money. And if you take that job with Dallas, there's no guarantee you won't be fired within 2 years if things were to go sideways. But at Colorado, they're not going to push him out. They want him to stay. And he can continue to make big money. He can continue to run the program his way. And the great thing about Coach Prime is that he's shown an ability to attract some big-time players to the program now that Shedeur, Shiloh, and Travis Hunter are on the way out. And so we'll see how things shake out. Plus, you're in a conference in the Big 12 where you've got a chance to win the conference again this year. They almost got to the Big 12 title game this season. And before you know it, you can put yourself in a position to be in the playoff. I just think Coach Prime has unfinished business to do at Colorado. Also, as we've talked about, I think with Coach Prime, it's important to him to be in a position where he can impact young men and be able to coach and be a father figure and help these kids develop into not just better football players, but also productive members of society. It's a big deal to him. It's the reason why he got into the coaching game in the first place. And I think he can, use his influence, his ability, and his way to connect with people to have an impact on these players' lives much more than he would in the NFL. And the great thing about Coach Prime, much like Coach Dillingham and Dan Lanning, is that instead of fighting against the new system in the day and age of NIL and players being able to transfer, he's embraced it. And he's trying to, use the system to the best of his abilities to help Colorado out. That's why I love these young minds. They don't fight the new. They embrace it. They try to understand it the best that they possibly can, and they go out there and continue to build their program. Instead of guys like Dabo Swinney at Clemson who complain about players getting paid, things not being the way they used to be, while he continues to collect $10+ million to coach a kid's game, making a king's ransom. Like, come on, Dabo. We know you're a good coach, but please stop with all the nonsense. All right, NFL games coming up tomorrow. So with the Texans at the Chiefs, 1:30 kick on CBS. ESPN, Kansas City favored by 8.5. I like the Chiefs. Total set at 41.5. Commanders and Lions at 5 on Fox. I like Detroit, but I think the Commanders are going to cover that spread. I still have concerns about Detroit's defense with all the injuries they have sustained, but I think the Commanders will be able to score and move the football. And what a great experience and opportunity for Jaden Daniels in his first year in the NFL to get a second playoff game. On Sunday, you've got the Rams at the Eagles. Philadelphia favored by 6. Totals at 43.5. I like Philadelphia in that game. Philadelphia, best roster in football, strong at the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to pressure Matt Stafford and turn him over, and then they're going to have great balance on offense. You'll see Jalen Hurts throw it for about 215. They'll run it for about 215, and they'll move on to the NFC title game. And I have a slight lean to the Bills in that game on Sunday afternoon with Baltimore and Buffalo. And I think Josh Allen, because of the issues Baltimore's had with their pass defense throughout the year, I just think Josh Allen's going to be able to find enough big plays in the passing game to get over the top. But they're going to have issues trying to stop the run game. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are a serious problem. Okay, Dave Decker at BlazersEdge.com is coming up next. We'll get his take on the coaching situation. Is it time to move on from Coach Billups, or should they wait until the end of the year? We'll deal with that next. Dave Deckard here on the Rip City Drive. All right, joining us right now is my good friend, and he's also the man behind BlazersEdge.com. It's Dave Decker. Dave, Happy New Year, my friend. It's great to talk to you again.
How's it going?
Very well. I guess we can start with Coach Billups. Before we get to his future or near future, I know a lot of fans. You probably hear from a lot of the same ones. Most of the Blazer fans that I hear from have never been happy with his hire or his tenure here in Portland. But if we were to look at some of the positives, how do you think he's done and his staff have done in terms of developing some of the young players we're seeing with Denny Avdia, Tamani Kamara, Donovan Clingan, Shaden Sharp, and Scoot Henderson?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to draw one-to-one correlations with coaching as much as people want to. It's a favorite target simply because it is a Rorschach test. You can see anything you want in it, which makes it good fodder for fans to talk about because they can have their point and place it on the coach, right? But I would say that there is some anecdotal evidence that Billups has done some decent development. The players you mentioned, even Scoot Henderson, has made some marginal improvements this year, and he was kind of a disaster last year. So, I mean, you can certainly say as part of that Rorschach test that Billups has brought along some young players. I've been especially impressed with Donovan Clingan, as most people have, but I think part of that is because Coach Billups has kept him in targeted situations. He's not playing 30 minutes a game. He's not playing, for the most part, against opposing starting lineups or other mobile centers where he's going to pick up a bunch of fouls right away and get tired and get frustrated. He's playing 13 to 15 minutes a game in controlled circumstances and looking really good. Part of that is Clingan's talent, and that will continue to grow, I'm sure. But part of that is also the coaching staff putting him in a position to succeed.
All right, I want to ask you about the four players. Let's take Scoot out of it for just a moment. But the four guys, Avdia, Sharp, Clingan, and Tamani Kamara, do you think those four players, have you seen enough from them to believe that they would be a part of the core moving forward?
Absent a, socks knocking off trade, sure. And you would go with them because you either gave up resources for them in Avdia's case, or they're awfully cheap in the case of almost everybody else. So their upside and their current production even is more than justifies. Plus, Kamara, he may be the biggest bargain in basketball right now almost.
Oh, yeah.
He defends like a pro. He's making minimum wage, and he's in your starting lineup and is a credible member of probably any starting lineup you can conceive for this team over the next 2 or 3 years. So there's no way you would want to lose him. Avdia, I think, has been a little bit up and down, but the positives outweigh the negatives. Sharp has yet to be seen. The expectations are higher for him. So is the salary a little bit, but he's still on rookie contract, so why worry about him? And Clingan obviously is on a rookie contract too. So, there's no reason not to keep him.
Well, there's no question that Scoot has been a disappointment relative to where he was taken at number 3 overall. But where are you at with Scoot right now? Is it still too early to tell? Like, how much more time do we need? Like, what do you think about all that?
It depends on what you want him to be. It's not too early to tell that he probably shouldn't have been the number 3 pick in 2023, although you would have to look at the players selected after him and say, well, who would you want that's better that you could have had enough foresight to select instead of Scoot? So, hindsight is 20/20. That said, he's not a 3rd overall pick at this point. However, he has gotten better at a few things. I think his passing is better. His turnovers are slightly down. His 2-point percentage is up, so he's finishing a little better. Also, I like his alley-oop passing. He's actually pretty good at that. The big thing with Scoot, to make the defense commit so he can get by his man. And the answer so far has been no, but I think you saw, for instance, in that Brooklyn Nets game, when he caught on fire, all of a sudden, all the offense got easy for him. Now, he's not going to shoot 8 for 10 from three-point land every night, but if he could shoot 35 to 39%, more things will open up for him, and he'll look like a much better offensive player. That's not out of the question for him, so I think you wait a little bit. That said, as with almost all Blazers players, if they see a deal that they think is going to improve the team and they want to throw Scoot in, there's no harm in that either at this point, given how he's performed. But there's no reason to get rid of him yet just on general principle.
No question about it. We're talking with Dave Decker, BlazersEdge.com here on the Rip City Drive. Now, with Coach Billups, would there be any real value in letting him go before the end of the season?
Well, a lot of people think so, but my argument is probably not, unless if the Blazers do it, they saw some value, which means they know something that we don't. That's fine. I'm not going to scream if he gets dismissed. But look, you're going to bring in an interim coach for, 40 games or 30 games by the time you pull the trigger? That's not going to make a big difference to this season or to the lives of any of the players involved. Unless you intend to keep that interim coach long term, all it means is they have a lame duck coach who's trying to get them to do stuff that they probably won't have interest in doing for the next couple months. Then they're going to get a whole new system in the fall. There's no reason empirically to get that interim system going. Billups' system will succeed or fail probably at the same reason an interim, or at the same rate rather, an interim coaches would. The big thing is, what do you do after this season? And do the Blazers go into next fall with the same coach and the same system? And the answer to that is probably not.
Yeah, no question. I can't wait to see, who's going to be on the short list for both Joe Cronin and Mike Schmitz in terms of who their next coach is going to be. I'll tell you this, the more I see a Cooper Flagg, I need to stop watching Cooper Flagg, Dave, because he is so good, and I'm going to want him here in Portland so bad. But at least there is some hope, because it's going to be a heck of a draft class coming up this year.
Yeah, it should be deep, and the Blazers should get a little more talent, at least. Maybe if they get lucky, a lot more talent, and that is the real key. Let's flip back to those interim coaches there for a second, though, if we could. Blazer fans should remember that the Blazers have done this twice before in recent memory. Caleb Canales, who was a great assistant coach and a great basketball guy, and Kevin Pritchard himself, who is going gangbusters as an executive in Indiana, both served as interim coaches after the firing of a long-term coach. And neither one of them won hardly any games. The best was 33%. And neither one of them changed the course of probably any of the players who coached under them. So there's no magic solution, even with the best basketball minds in that position. The magical solution is the one you just said. Get lucky in the lottery, get a high pick, and then you've got some talent for a coach to work with.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. I've just been told that the Blazers, the reason why they kept Billups on board this year as kind of a lame duck coach without picking up that option year is that, like a lot of franchises, they just didn't want to pay, two guys to handle the job. And if that's the case, I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I understand what they're trying to do business-wise there.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. I think there's also something to say that the team is not fully formed yet. And you want your new coach to come in with the best footing possible. That wasn't going to happen this year. So hopefully after the upcoming draft, a new coach will have a little bit more to work with. The roster will be a little bit more defined after summer of trades or whatever, in addition to that draft. And then they have a chance to move forward instead of spinning in place kind of like Billups is doing.
You know what's going to be fascinating, Dave, is they look to find new homes for Jeremy Grant and Ayton and Anthony Simons. How challenging is that going to be, not just for Portland, but other teams looking to move contracts with, more than $20 million a year on that for a particular player with the new salary cap restrictions with that second apron?
Yeah, it's getting much, much tougher to make trades, as you've seen. Also, the return for trades right now is pretty low compared to history, which may be an argument for the Blazers to wait. Now, Portland's problem is the players you're talking about make kind of mid-range salaries, $26 million or $32 million, and there are really a couple strata of salaries in the NBA right now. There's your big stars who are making $40 or $50 million, and then your role players are making about 15, and then some are making 8 or 1, right? That $30 million salary is hard to trade. You can't trade that player for a star. But if you try to trade them for a lesser player, then you have to take extra players back. And the Blazers don't have room on their roster for that. They would have to literally waive players in order to absorb multiple players in return. The problem with that is you have to pay every player. They all count against your cap, even if you waive them, which means that Portland would go into the luxury tax trading a Jeremy Grant for like 2 or 3 mediocre players. They can't do that. They wouldn't get the return on Grant's talent. They'd get tax penalties and also not get the tax dollars coming in that non-tax teams get, so they'd lose a lot of money. It makes no sense. So that's why you may see them wait on some of these contracts until things loosen up in the summer, roster spots open for everybody, and it's a lot easier to make these multiplayer for single-player deals.
We're talking with Dave Deckard. Now, this is pretty awesome. Blazers Edge Night's coming up on March 25th. I'm looking at the NBA standings right now. The Cleveland Cavaliers are atop the Eastern Conference at 34-6, and that's going to be the team that the Trailblazers play on Blazers Edge Night. It's amazing that you're able to pull such a wonderful game for that big night for the underprivileged youth who are going to be watching their very first basketball game in person.
Yeah, it is absolutely great, but it's not going to happen unless people donate tickets to the cause. We have about 1,100 tickets, and there are several hundred of those remaining open. And the way you do it is you go to blazersedge.com. You look right below the pictures on the cover. It says, I believe the title now is How You Can Pay Blazers Edge Back, which is not by giving us any money. It's donating to send kids in need to see the Blazers play. You just click through the link in that article. It goes directly to the website the Blazers have set up. You buy tickets directly from them, not from us. We don't even touch a thing about this. You buy it from them, but instead of going into your will call bucket, it goes into the bucket for this charity event. Then we hook up teachers and coaches and counselors and principals who all work with kids in need and tell them that they get to take kids to that Cavaliers-Blazers game in March because you donated tickets to them. They pick them up on that night, and it is such a special night to see their eyes, to hear their voices as they watch their very first Blazers game in person, an experience that they were never able to have but for this event.
It's really a great cause. What I'm doing out right now, you can go to blazersedge.com. It's right there on the front page, as Dave mentioned. And I am putting out a link right now on social at Chad and Rip City with the link to the page where you can simply buy tickets for the night. And Dave, as you and I often talk about, and I mean this with the sincerity of all my heart, there's nothing like seeing those kids when they walk from the concourse out into the Arena Bowl for the very first time and see their eyes light up. Like that brings pleasure to me because they're getting a chance to see something that's so great to them for the very first time. It really is a special night.
Yeah, it is. And we've been doing this since 2007. So, you're talking about multiple thousands of kids now, a couple generations who have been able to go. And every year it's really special. So, it's one thing that's grassroots, that's feel good. There's no downside to it at all. And it makes the years, if not the lives, of a lot of these kids.
All right, Dave Deckard, blazersedge.com. Dave, as always, I appreciate the time, my friend, and I look forward to talking with you in the near future.
All right. Thank you so much.
There you go, Dave Deckard. That's a good man right there. Love Dave, and Blazers Edge Night really is special. And it's real simple. I just put out the link, and when you pull it up and you hit the link, it's right there. You just have to simply click and purchase as many tickets as you want, but it's relying upon us to be able to help out and make things happen. I know there were times in the past where Myers Leonard would call up and ask someone at Blazers Edge, how many more tickets do you need to sell to get all the kids there? And he would pick up the tab on that. So there's many people who step up, even if you just buy 1 or 2 tickets. Everything helps. So Blazers Edge Night coming up on the 25th, and they just were fortunate to grab such a terrific game with the Cavs, the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. It's amazing. Cavs right now sit atop the East at 34-6. They're 6 games out in front of the Celtics. Now, do I think Cleveland would beat Boston in a 7-game series? Probably not. But we could have some good matchups. Cleveland, Boston, New York, Milwaukee, Orlando, and Indiana, the top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. Oklahoma City, Houston, Memphis, Denver, the Clippers, coming off their win last night over Portland, and the Los Angeles Lakers right now in 6th. We'll see how things shake out. Dallas, I would expect, once they get Luka back, they've dealt with some injuries, they'll continue their meteoric rise. Kings have been playing better basketball since they fired Mike Brown, and the Suns are still, middling at 20-20. All right, so playoffs tomorrow. It's going to be good. It's going to be real good. I'm excited to see Jaden Daniels play. I had a chance to see him early on in his career at Arizona State, as a youngster playing for Herm Edwards. I was at the game when he threw that miraculous third down pass against the Ducks to Brandon Ayuk for the touchdown. And he's just a terrific player. And he did great things at LSU and won a Heisman Trophy. But I like young players who show great poise, and that's Jaden Daniels. Calm under pressure, accurate with the football, and I love seeing young guys, the way some of the older dudes on the team gravitate towards them. We saw that with Bo Nix. Drake May has shown some flashes this year as a rookie. I love seeing these rookies step in and make the most of their opportunity. It's awesome. But if you look at the NFL playoffs right now and the games that we're going to see this weekend, just take a look at the quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud in year number 2, coming off that impressive rookie season, getting a chance to battle Patrick Mahomes, who is the best of the best. The Commanders have a rookie in Jaden Daniels. Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl. He's a veteran pocket passer for the Lions. The Rams have a Super Bowl winner in Matthew Stafford. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts, who nearly beat Mahomes in a Super Bowl. And then you got the 2 MVP candidates in both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in the Ravens-Bills game. So let's just go down the line here. Texans, quarterback, check. Chiefs, check. Commanders, check. Lions, check. Rams, check. Eagles, check. Every team playing this weekend has a superb quarterback. And that's where it's all out in the NFL. Have you got coach and quarterback figured out? If you haven't, you're screwed. You have no chance. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Chad doing live at Spirit Mountain Casino, getting ready for Escape to Paradise. Coming up on Monday, Alex Brink and I are going to be here for the college football playoff. The championship game with Notre Dame and Ohio State will broadcast live from 3 to 6. I think it's a holiday, so come down and join us. We're going to have goodies to give away, and we'll enjoy the game. Well, I know one thing for certain. Michael Shacker, my man at Master Control, he's ready for a coaching change with the Trailblazers. He just told me that he wants Chauncey Billups to be shamed for how many games he's lost. And, of course, he and I differ on Billups. I love Chauncey Billups. I think he's a terrific ex-player and a good man. And I love him, too, in terms of being a media member because he's terrific with the media. So I'm just a big fan of Chauncey. But I also used to live in Colorado. He's beloved there. I thought he was a great player. But I like Chauncey. I just think that, I don't have an issue with Chauncey whatsoever. I just think he got caught up in, circumstances. If you're a first-time head coach and you're coming in, and the idea is you're going to work with a veteran club, and then all of a sudden the franchise decides to go in a different direction, then he embraced it, but it's not like he was in a position to win a ton of games. So, and I think the development under his watch with some of the young players has been pretty good. I know a lot of you disagree with me and you're frustrated with those comments, but I'm down with Chauncey. Am I allowed to like a guy? I do. I like Chauncey. I'm down. But he's going to be gone after this year. The Blazers are going to move on. So you don't have to worry about it anymore, and I just hope that he gets an opportunity that's a little bit better suited for what he wants to accomplish, moving forward. But the Blazers, be in a position, Joe Cronin, as a general manager, you want to have the ability to hire your own coach. He didn't hire Coach Billups. And if I were a GM, I'd want to have a chance to bring in my guy, the coach that I think is going to be best suited for what we want to accomplish. And, Joe Cronin didn't hire Chauncey Billups. That was Neil Olshey. So we'll see what Schmitz and Cronin are able to come up with in regards to coaching. And obviously I think the most important thing is, aside from coach, it's always about talent. So if they land Cooper Flagg, I don't give a flying rip who the coach is because it's all going to be good. It's going to transform the franchise instantly. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm sure hopeful that they land Cooper Flagg. They almost got Wemby, but Cooper Flagg, he looks awesome. So I'm excited about that. Excited about the games this weekend. Busy Blazers schedule. Don't forget tomorrow night, 7 o'clock tip against Houston, one of the up-and-coming teams in the West, and then 6 o'clock on Sunday against the Bulls. So back-to-back games, and then Portland will be off on a 3-game East Coast swing next week. Monday, though, Alex Brink and I are going to be down here at Spirit Mountain Casino in the sports book, hanging out for the championship game. We'll be live from 3 to 6. I got a lot of goodies to give away, so come down and join us. Your place to bet on college sports is right here at Spirit Mountain Casino. Tonight they've got the Escape to Paradise drawings that are going on. Shacker just went to Hawaii. I could use an Escape to Paradise right now. I'm cold, partly because it's cold outside, but partly because I'm sitting underneath the air vent right now that's blowing air-conditioned air on me. I don't like being cold. But the good thing is that tomorrow's game number 41. We're already in mid-January, so as quickly as it ends, my golf season will be beginning soon, near future. So January, February. So looking at about 3 more months before I can be back on the golf course on a regular basis, and that is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. In terms of the games, I like Kansas City and Detroit to win tomorrow. And on Sunday, I like the Eagles, and I'm going back and forth between the Ravens and Bills. And what are the Bills going to do if they can't stop the run? And the Ravens, that's going to be the key for Buffalo. Can they keep Baltimore's run game in check to a degree? They ran up 300 yards on Pittsburgh. You look at the teams that had great success last week in the postseason in the wild card round. The teams that ran the football well won the game. And I have a respect for Baltimore, their franchise, their front office, John Harbaugh, but I love the toughness that they bring. I just hope that they don't lose their identity. I guess in the same way that I don't want Dan Campbell to put on the dumb cap and start going for it on 4th down in a bunch of bad situations like we saw last year when he cost his team the chance to win the NFC title game against the 49ers. I don't want the Ravens to lose their identity. Remember what happened in that game against Kansas City in the AFC title game? They forgot to run the football. It's like you guys have been dominant at running the football all year. The Chiefs have had issues at times stopping the run, and now you're not going to run the football? I mean, you got to the teams that have great conviction and understanding of who they are, they don't lose sight of that, and they go out there and get it done. Now, with Kansas City, I guess what's impressed me with them this year, I know a lot of people complain because they're lucky or they keep getting over in these close games. I don't think they're a lucky football team at all. I think they're a veteran team with great coaches that know how to win and execute in clutch situations, and that's why they continue to get over in those spots. But what I love about Andy Reid is just his flexibility, the way that he can adjust his game plans based on the talent that he has or the injuries that he's dealing with. And the Chiefs are very resourceful. They can win games in a variety of different ways. If it's low scoring in defense, then we'll adjust on offense and make sure that we play ball control and protect the football. If we have to air it out and move the chains through the air, we can do that. So, and the quarterback play this weekend is going to be great. All right, that's going to do it for me. A big thanks to all of our guests today. Justin Bollinger from Spirit Mountain Casino joined us. Travis Demers, the voice of your Trailblazers, and Dave Deckard of BlazersEdge.com. Tomorrow, we'll kick off our Blazer coverage at 5. Blazers game day with Chris Burkhardt, tip-off at 7. And on Sunday, we will kick off our coverage at 4 with the tip-off at 6. So we got a full weekend of basketball. Enjoy the football action.